Hi everyone. Before I get mauled in the comments by my fellow King mains, I wanted to make this video with the intention to use this as both a guide on what to do against King, and for King players to map out King's weaknesses so that you can further polish your King gameplay. King players, please use this to your advantage to work on your defense, and to give the people who are looking at this guide a reason to come back and tell me my advice didn't work because the King player they played against didn't mash. I would love to see that happen. For those who are taking interest in this guide, I really do appreciate and admire you wanting to further your knowledge in the game. I hope this can help you manage the King matchup, and I hope this pushes you to learn matchups for the rest of the cast. Thanks for watching all, and happy learning! Hey everybody! So, I've been seeing a lot of anti-King hatred on Twitter, on YouTube, and Twitch streams, and it's pretty rough to see, especially because a lot of the stuff that you can probably do is pretty easy to fix. A lot of King players like to grab a lot, like excessively. That being said, King isn't really the best character to enforce an offensive game plan if your opponent is just mashing all day. So we're gonna have King do a down forward, sorry, not a generic grab. We're gonna have him do a tombstone, and we're going to have him mash afterwards. Down forward 2. King is not at an advantage here. You can definitely push here, and King will get stuffed all day with a counter hit, with any move that virtually is faster than down forward 2. There are some moves where if it's a little bit slower, it will trade, but essentially this is saying you do not have to take the pressure afterwards. This is something that you can just break out of this pressure. This pressure is not real. He is pretty unsafe after, enough to get you to push a jab and get him away from you. A lot of misconception is that, oh, King can just keep grabbing you afterwards and keep grabbing you and keep grabbing you, and that is just not, it's just not the case, right? So we're gonna have King do we'll have him do several Shining Wizards. If he tries to do anything afterwards, he will get hit out of it. Whoops. If you see the number on the bottom right, where King is, it says frame advantage. Let me go ahead and move this up here. It says frame advantage. If he does anything afterwards, he is -5, which means you basically have the freedom to do whatever you want. There's definitely this I don't know where it came from, but like the misinformation behind this is the fact that King is really dumb. He can throw you 24/7. That's definitely not the case. You can definitely push afterwards. By all means, push afterwards. Make the King players work for their defense. The second thing is King being scary when he's doing a crouch grab. Right, something like this is a little scary. It is scary for everybody. A lot of people cannot recognize the King player doing something like this, where if they do go into a crouch grab, they'll kind of just stand there and accept their fate. This is something you definitely should work on as far as practicing your defense against King, is ducking. Being able to flash duck a throw helps so much, especially because of the time that it takes for him to recover from this. It's definitely a good amount of time. If you duck it and you just aren't good with reacting, that's okay. You have a lot of time to punish him for this. You can very well see he recovers from the throw, but sometimes the punish still is considered a punish, as it's lit up in the bottom right corner, signifying that this is indeed a punish despite him retracting his arms. So he has a pretty good window where he is punishable. That being said, this is one of the more telegraphed throws, but this is something that you want to apply just generally. Against King players, they do like to throw, and especially after doing something super minute, super small, it really does not hurt to duck. Do a little small duck. All you have to do is duck for about a frame, which is pretty, like, if you just tap down back, it's pretty lenient with, like, you can duck pretty quickly and see that you ducked, right? And then you can do whatever you want afterwards. If you evade something like this, I highly encourage you to practice trying to do virtually anything. It doesn't have to be does not have to be a launcher. It does not have to be something super crazy and optimal. Just do something simple. You want to punish the king player for really messing up these throws, and this is definitely one of those ways to dissuade them from throwing. It makes them shift more towards using those other tools that they might not be comfortable with, and those other tools don't give him that many plus frames on block, which basically means if I'm doing a tool like down forward 2 on block, I have to just kind of accept that I just gave up my turn. If I want to do something like forward 4, this move is -9 on block. These are really big moves that if it hits, it does a lot of damage, sure. But if you block it, I'm at a severe disadvantage as the king player. Definitely do not be afraid to swing against king. You have to make the king player work for their spacing. Being up close is king's thing, which kind of leads me to my next point. Being able to outspace the king player. King is really effective up close. He has a lot of tools up close that catch your opponent pretty consistently. If you are able to space your opponent from something like this, it leaves him completely wide open, and it leaves you with a really good opportunity to whiff punish him. This could be virtually anything. The second that you are able to get space from king, absolutely take advantage of it. This is definitely something that you cannot miss against king players. His throws make up a lot of his damage, and you as somebody defending against king, this stuff is crucial. It's pretty much the anti-king strategy. Punish him for his throws and press where the opponent feels comfortable to mash, when in reality they are at a significant disadvantage. A lot of king players, again, like doing these weird strategies of, you know, doing back 1 into back 1. You can't do that. That's not real. This is not a real thing. You will get counter hit by everything. This is something that is just, as you can see in the bottom right, it says counter. Anything that you try to do afterwards will virtually get counter hit. It's pretty bad. Like, I can do really slow moves and this is still considered counter hit. Obviously not too slow, but the point is most of your quick, fast tools will probably hit after this. Something as small as a jab, something as small as a down forward 2, a down forward 1, that will absolutely counter hit him. He is not in a position to mash here. Do not be afraid of the big scary moves. The big scary moves are like your indicator of he's doing the big scary moves. That means I get to do whatever I want. If he's trying to throw you, absolutely try and duck it. If you can break it, even better, because now you have the freedom to do whatever you want on break. Kind of. At least if he tries to mash. Lastly, just to kind of give you a bit of an insight, king does not have the best lows in the game. His best low right now is this move. Forward, forward, neutral 2. Forward, forward, neutral 2. This is probably one of the best moves he has ever received in a Tekken series. This move is +7 for king. It is a huge advantage move. The downsides to this are that it is incredibly linear. I'm gonna have him just do a side walk to the right after. On hit, by the way. +7 on hit. This move is definitely one of those moves where if your opponent just does not know what they're doing, you will get stepped by it. Absolutely step to the right or walk to the right and make this move whiff. To complement this with king is down 3, which tracks that way, but this doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It does 12 damage. It's also only +1. This does not give king the best advantage in the world. This is like if I blocked one of his jabs. Everybody kind of has this, right? This is like if I block a jab. +1 doesn't give you a whole lot. So definitely take advantage of that. This is only +1, and it only does about 12 damage. My advice for people playing against king is definitely take the low, look for the throw. take the low, look for the throw. That means anything that comes out of a crouch dash. That means if your opponent is just running at you doing something like this, and if they're just trying to push buttons afterwards. You absolutely can mash against your opponent. The only issue that I can see with this is back 3, which is a new addition to King's tools, and I can see people getting messed up by this move. If you're doing something as quick as a down forward 1, it should recover fast enough to block it. For example, if I have King, just for, purposes, right? We'll just do down forward 1 to back 3. If King is defending, this is definitely something you want to work with, right? Jab, jab, he absorbs the hit, you're able to see him get hit by it. Something like that might get stuffed out. Disregarding the back 3 bug, yeah, this is not intentional. This will get fixed, probably in the upcoming patch. This is not supposed to do that. This is definitely a bug. This move is also pretty linear, so you can definitely step a lot of his options to the right. I do see a lot of those guides of like, oh, sidestep right beats this character, sidestep left beats this character. King is definitely sidestep right. A lot of his options just get inherently beat out by this. The only exceptions are maybe forward, neutral 2, which kind of tracks that way. But you could definitely step it on block from realistically any blocking situation for you. Definitely practice this and keep this in mind. Standing still is definitely not the play against King. You want to force him to make mistakes, force him to panic throw, force him to do a move that's big, flashy, and unsafe, and gives you a big advantage. As I was saying before, take the throw, or take the low. The lows, realistically, do not do a whole lot. Forward 4, neutral 2 on counter hit is the only caveat, and this does a whole chunk, but this is on counter hit. If you're sidestepping to the right, down 3 tracks, but it's only 12 damage. This is not a whole lot. Definitely take the low, look for a threat. Be willing to push some buttons against King. This move right here, on block, launch punishable. On hit, -4. You absolutely can do anything in this situation. King cannot do shit from here. Do not take this for free. Absolutely mash here every time this happens. Your opponent does this into this, they will get counter hit by virtually anything. His other good low is down back 3, but this move is a little slow, and you can... it is seeable if you train your eyes well enough. You could see this move. It's +4 on hit, but on block it's -14. Again, this move only does about 17 damage, which is a good chunk for a low, but considering its speed, you might just be able to block it and punish it. This move is also... I think it tracks to the right, but at this point, you can just see it, right? If you just kind of see him moving his way on down, you could definitely react to this. It does take practice. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, you could see it 100% of the time. But it's a slow move. The point of the move is to be slow, to get your opponent to be caught off guard. For you, as somebody playing against King, that's not something that you have to necessarily deal with if you know it's slow enough. And then that's pretty much it. Against King, you want to really challenge his options. You want to try and get him to focus more on the throws and give you an opportunity to duck them. If you're ducking a lot of his throws, the King player will start going mid and doing these big, scary mid moves. But just know, on block, you absolutely have total freedom in what you can do. It's definitely a struggle for King if your opponent is blocking a lot, because if I'm not getting damage in, it's scary for me because I still have to, like as a King player, I still have to try and make sure that I don't get counter hit by something. You want to try and keep your advantage against King, you want to press against him, you absolutely do want to try and do anything that you can to force him to back off a little bit. and rely on these counter hit situations where if I'm doing like something like this, right? They're trying to start pressure. You can start forcing him to do these big scary moves and take your advantage afterwards. Definitely consider this going up against your next king player, and let me know if you're able to beat them just using this strategy. If they start doing the big mids, you take your turn, space yourself against king correctly, and force your opponent to give up their move to try and force their way in, and generally make sure to sidestep to the right. Sidestepping to the right tends to beat most of his options, though he does have a few homing options. They're pretty slow, and you can kind of see whether or not it'll track. That being said, king is definitely a force to be reckoned with. Definitely be aware of how much damage he can net from his throws, and try to minimize that as much as you can. King players struggle against pressure because they're so quick to move to these counter hit moves, and if you're able to snuff out these counter hit situations, you can absolutely blow them up for it. One thing to kind of also note, this move is really good, but it's 0 on block. So if the king player wants to do something like this, just know that you nor king are at an advantage. This doesn't give him an advantage or anything like that. You can absolutely trade with him if you do a jab, and he also does a jab. You guys are at a complete neutral situation. Nobody is advantage or disadvantage. This move is also pretty linear to the right as well. It's also lacking in range. You kind of have to come close to your opponent, which kind of enforces the keep out game. You want to keep your opponent out and really force your opponent to overextend themselves. I would include the throw breaks and everything here, but I did want to make this a general king guide, like anti-king strategy, so I don't want to overload your brain with like, oh, you have to do this break, you have to do this break, that break, whatever. This is just kind of like an informative thing, and a little bit easier to implement than just being like, oh, this is a 2 break, this is a 1 break. It can get overwhelming sometimes with the variety of throws in the games. So if you can generally pick up the game plan from here, I think you'll be in great standing. One final piece, King's Heatsmash. Let me go ahead and put heat on King. King's Heatsmash. A lot of damage. If he's in heat, I would not recommend stepping against him. Similarly, if we just have heat activate with the bot, and we have him do this on block, this is a little scary for the person who has to deal with this, because you're put in a bit of a mix-up. In this situation, I would strongly recommend you, as the defender, to take the throw. Whoops. The throw here is not that crazy of a situation, and it's generally less damaging than everything else. This is a total of 45 damage, whereas if I do something like this, if we compare the damages here, on block, let's just hold forward, right? We'll eat the 45 damage. That's not too crazy. The most that King can probably get out of this situation is about... the labbing is too tough. The most you can get out of this situation is way less than what you would take, essentially, from taking damage from a throw. This is about 20-ish more damage than what you would normally take if you just took the throw. The throw is also seeable on hit. So we take like 21, 20... So the first initial 2 hits, not nearly as damaging as the throw, but he does get a free hit afterwards if you do back roll, which is an extra 20 damage. Realistically, the throw here seems like the better thing to take. And that's assuming that you can't see the throw, which you absolutely can. You do have to train your eyes a little bit more for this, but in this situation, if I'm going against King, being able to see the throw is pretty pivotal. As you can see, these are both, the options are both on. You could definitely react to that and punish it. It takes time for sure to be able to recognize that, but it's something that you can definitely practice. And you have plenty of time to punish. If they back roll, yeah, if they back roll. Sorry, I'm looking at chat. So yeah, this move, Jaguar Run, is totally not scary if you do not duck. Generally, take the mids. These mids, by the way, on block, are also just as minus and unsafe as every other scary big mid that he has. -8, -9. I cannot do anything afterwards as the King player. So you absolutely have advantage here. Definitely mash, definitely push a button. If King is pushing here, he is an insane person. He absolutely cannot be doing this for free repeatedly. He also does have a low out of this stance to recover from. He does want to mix it up. But this move only does about 20 damage and leaves you crouching, while King is in a face... He's on the floor, basically. So this doesn't put him in a good way with regards to positioning, because I just made all the space, and now he has to basically run back in to get the space. Sure, he can get the damage in, but the most important part we're worried about is damage mitigation and positioning. If we're trading this for a near 60 damage interaction, I'm taking this all day. This is absolutely no issues with this. Don't be scared of Jaguar Run. Practice seeing the throw. It's definitely seeable. Let me know how that works out for you if you play up against a King player. And I hope to see you in my next stream sometime. Thanks.